Shalom. Welcome to the Chai Academy. This is Rabbi Sachs. And we are beginning yet another class on ethics and beliefs, Jewish ethics and beliefs. So we've tackled quite a few interesting ethics, righteous Gentiles. We've tackled the marriage, domestic harmony. We've tackled burial versus cremation, etc. And you can see all these classes at thechaicenter.com/academy, also on YouTube and Spotify. So today's class is called Following Orders. You know, every single human being, no matter whom you are, you have free will. Definition of free will is that you have the will to determine what the choice, you have the freedom to choose what you are going to do in moral decisions. If you like chocolate versus vanilla, I don't know if that's a moral choice. Some would argue. That's probably just a part of a pre-programming. You like all ice cream altogether, it's probably part of your pre-programming. Some people like cottage cheese. Some people despise cottage cheese. I don't think that's a free will. What we're talking about free will is in strictly moral choices. It's a morality issue. Now, the definition of morality is actually a little hard to define. According to the Mishnah, where you live, the neighborhood you choose is a moral issue. Which car do you drive? Is that a moral issue? So it's really difficult to determine what exactly is a moral choice. But we do know definites. And we know these definites basically from code, whether it's a Noachide code or whether it's a Hammurabi code or whether, of course, the Torah. The Torah tells us to do certain things, not to do certain things. We know that's a moral decision if we go against it. Nowhere does it say you have to eat ice cream. Nowhere does it say cottage cheese or tofu. Nowhere does it say that you're not allowed to be a vegetarian or you must be a vegetarian. That's not free will. To take a vaccine or not take a vaccine, now that's an interesting one. Is that a moral choice or not? I don't know. I have to give it more thought. So the bottom line is we all have these moral decisions. We all have freedom to choose these moral decisions. Therefore, the argument that I was just following orders, as far as Judaism goes, it falls flat on its face. If it's an evil act, it's forbidden. And you cannot blame with following orders, this person made me do it, because guess what? There's a higher calling. There's a God. There's that rate's much higher than the individual, the narcissist, or the dictator, or the Führer who says do something. No, I don't answer to you. I answer to God. Oh, you may lose your life. Well, there's certain things. Okay. Lose your life, because, and you can't kill somebody saying if I don't kill them I'll be killed. That you're not allowed to do. It's one of the big three. We've discussed this. So just following orders, and it doesn't have to be as severe as killing or be killed, but just following orders is not an excuse. It's not acceptable, and you cannot blame the orderer. You cannot. And so therefore, the Nazis, right? If you think about the Nuremberg trials, the Nazis, and they ruled, Nuremberg ruled correctly. Following orders is not a defense. It's just not a defense. Your answer is no, I will not do it. No, I'm not going to do it. It's wrong. It's immoral. And we discussed this a long time ago when in the course of modern day Israel, from Israel, the formation of Israel, etc. So in 1956, it was during the Sinai campaign, and there was there was a war brewing, etc. And Israel was concerned about a fifth column. They were concerned about Arabs within Israel that would attack Israel. Not only the Arabs in Egypt. So they made a curfew. After a certain time, you were not allowed to leave your house because they were afraid of terrorism, excursions, etc. during the night. So it happened that it was in Kfar Qasim, which is right by the Green Line. I think, so it's right by it's really right on the Green Line, and it is about 20 miles east of Tel Aviv. So Tel Aviv is on the water. You take east all the way, right by the West Bank, as they call it, right? So there were some Arabs who lived in Kfar Qasim who did not get the memo that there's a curfew, and they were night workers, and therefore they left their house at night, and they left their house at night, and they were killed. So it became a big uproar. The defense of these soldiers, the defense was, hold on a second, there was a curfew, and we were told as soldiers we were to make sure that there was no incursions, and there was no, and there was no terrorism, there was no fifth column, and there was no, and therefore any person that avoided curfew was to be killed. That's following orders. So there was a court-martial. And during the court-martial, 8 Israeli soldiers were convicted. And rightly so. And basically what the military court came up with, they said, you killed an innocent civilian. You have to use your common sense as well. It cannot be, there's one thing if they were terrorists, but to just shoot at civilians and kill them is wrong. And therefore, they were sent to prison. Because following orders, we were following our high command, is not acceptable. Is not acceptable. And by the way, Eichmann, the only person to ever, I think, be executed in Israel, Eichmann, that was his defense, and it was rebuffed, rightly so. It was rebuffed if following orders, right? And Eichmann's claim held no water, and it doesn't. And the whole reason it doesn't is one. There's 2 reasons. One is, once again, you have free will to choose. Secondly, is that you answer to a higher authority, and therefore, and that's, by the way, the whole concept of whistleblowers, right? And so your boss is doing something, and it's something immoral, and you got to say it because people getting hurt. There's toxins in the water, and they're polluting the water. You got a moral decision to say it's a rat against your boss. That's what it is, the Whistleblower Act, because people were afraid. So the question is, what would happen if they were terrorists and they let them go? Of course, no one says you shouldn't watch them, and no one says that you shouldn't stop them. But they killed them. They said, "Oh, they defied curfew," and they gunned them down. That is, yes, of course, safety and security comes first, but that doesn't mean you gun somebody down, right? And this is, by the way, the law in the United States. You you pull somebody over, and on their license plate is they are America's most wanted. Right? You don't go over to the car and blow their brains out. You go over to, and you arrest them. Right? And a lot of the issues we're having is because of they if you think about the George Floyd case, and George Floyd was no innocent, but three of the four police officers were basically following this veteran, and it was wrong. And there's no excuse. So that's part of it, is you cannot follow. If it's immoral, you have to stand up, and you have to develop a backbone, and that is tried and proven. And essentially, you have an obligation not to carry out the order. Now, let's say you were sent on a mission to deliver bad news. So the term "don't shoot the messenger" is correct. It's not an evil act. It's not an evil act at all, in any way, shape, or form. You weren't sent to kill somebody, to maim somebody. You were sent to inform somebody that serve somebody. Serve somebody. See you in court, buddy. You can't blame the messenger. Right? You can't blame the messenger. And is the messenger allowed to do it? Yeah. The Torah tells us very clearly, by the way. There's a whole debate. And basically the Talmud says, based on the Torah, it says that the first part of the first, the Torah talks about divorcing. So he says, as we know, in Judaism, you need a get. You need something called the get. It's not enough just to have a civil divorce. If two Jews marry one another, then the correct protocol is they get a civil divorce, which is required by United States law or New York State law. I don't think it's a federal law. I think it's state, and all states have it, I think. So it's a law that you cannot have polygamy. You have to get a civil divorce, and in addition, you have to get a get. You have to get a get. So the Torah tells us, "V'chosav lo get," and he should write a get and give it to her. Another verse talks about sending her a get. So the Talmud discusses, is it the husband only who has to give his wife a get to her hand? Or can he give the get via proxy? And the Talmud discusses it at great length. Trust me, great length. And the Talmud comes to the conclusion that shluchai shel adam k'moisei, that a proxy is just like the person doing it. So a proxy's acceptable, but a proxy's not acceptable if he tells you to decapitate somebody. It's not acceptable. You cannot do it. Another Talmudic principle, ein shlich ledvar aveira, that right? There is no. You can't say, well, I'm a messenger to do something wrong. You can't. Right? So a letter, a message, a serving, but not even in an evil act. Yeah, you can do a good act. Somebody sends you with $1,000 to inform this person that is giving this, I'm helping you, and you send it via messenger. You can't say, well, it was the messenger that gave me the money, not the individual. No, shluchah shel adam k'maaseh. It's a viable. The person who sent the messenger is credited, and the messenger was served as at the will of the messenger. He's a proxy. Can you vote by proxy? Yes, you can vote by proxy. I don't know about elections, but you can vote in many ways in companies, corporations, etc. You can vote by proxy. But you can't do evil via proxy. Why? Because the proxy has to step up and say, I ain't doing it. And if the proxy doesn't step up, and the proxy does it, right? Of course, the person that hired the proxy is also blamed. Of course, you hired the hitman. But the hitman cannot say, I'm blameless because it was this fellow's will and witness. I'm just the medium. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And what the hitman has to do is to say, hold on a second. I answer to a higher authority. I have a moral code. I am absolutely not going to do this for you. Come Gehenna or high water. So that is essentially the approach. Now, there are so many things that a messenger can do for you. For example, every single person, every single Jewish individual is under the obligation to write themselves a Torah. Now, how many people can write themselves a whole Torah? You can't. You can't. So what you do is you come together as a community. Each person gives $50. And you pay a scribe and write the Torah. And because you all participated in writing a Torah, it's as if you've written a Torah. The Torah cannot, if there's one letter missing or one letter cracked in a Torah, then it can't be used. So therefore, a half-finished Torah can't be used. So therefore, if there's one letter missing, it can't be used. So every single person participated in writing a letter or a word by paying a scribe, and therefore you all have a part and parcel in the Torah. It's as if you've done it. Every single person is obligated to support the community, whether it's the shul, whether it's the mikveh, whether it's the community center, whether it's the school, the yeshiva, whether it's for books, whether it's for security, right? Everybody's obligated. And so you don't have to do it yourself. You don't have to be the security guard. It's a taxes, which is taxes is very Torah-esque. A tax is placed, and you're part of the community. You get the mitzvah of being part of the community. You get the mitzvah of helping keep your community secure with the Torah, with a shul, with a mikveh, and with the yeshiva, and with a center and a homeless center and a Meals on Wheels, or whatever it may be. So that's where proxy fits in. That's where but not to kill somebody. That you're on your own. That you did it. You take the fall. You take the blame for it. Right, and many people do it. Many people do it. As Eric writes, that when a person, some people do it in the honor. Most people don't. When a person passes this, they get especially if they're of means, or if they're not of means, then the family, all gather together, or two families or three families gather together, and they have a Torah written in memory of this person, this person, this person, and this person, and at the end, the tail end, when the scribe is 15, 20 letters away, they go to somebody's house, and everybody has the opportunity to hold the quill with the scribe and write the letter. And it's really, we've done it at the Chai Center 3 times, I think. 3 times we've had a community Sefer Torah, either in memory of somebody or just because our community needed the Torah. So that's So yes, so there is the concept of proxy, but once again, it's only for good. It's not for bad. It's only there's another, by the way, halachic principle which is fascinating, and this principle in Jewish law is as follows: is that you can do something for somebody without them being there, without their knowledge. But you can't if it's for positive. If it's for negative, you can't. So, as an example, we all know, or many of us know, if you don't, we can talk about it. Well, but there's this concept of selling chametz. A Jew is not allowed to own anything leavened, even a mixture of chametz, anything from a grain other than matzah. You're not allowed to own. You're not allowed to have cereal. You're not allowed to have bread. There's so many different things you're not allowed to own. right? And you can't only eat it, can't own it. So therefore you sell it. You sell it to somebody who's not obligated to keep Pesach, who doesn't have this requirement. A non-Jew is allowed to eat pizza on Passover, no problem, no issue. A Jew's not. Just to give you, many non-Jews, they don't eat meat on Friday. A Jew can. It's, so there's different, there's different protocols. A Jew biblically is not allowed to own any chametz on Passover. So what do? You put all your non-kosher, non-Passover goods, including your pots and pans, etc. You put it in a closet or in a pantry or wherever, and you say, I am going to sell this closet. And you go to the rabbi, and you make the rabbi your proxy. You write down my house, my office, and you're also allowed to write down for somebody else. They didn't write down, they didn't care. All right, they didn't care, but you care. So because it's a positive, you can write down their address. When I sell for the entire community. I basically say anybody that lives in the following zips, whether they sold or they didn't sell, I'm taking the liberty of selling for them. Now, they may or may not eat chametz on Passover. We're not talking about eating. We're talking about owning. So if they don't eat, but they didn't to sell, so I sold for them because I'm allowed to. Because I'm helping somebody not violate a biblical command of owning chametz on Passover. But I cannot obligate you to deduct $100 out of your bank account for somebody else. That's a deficit in your bank account. You have to obligate yourself. I cannot do it. I have no jurisdiction. I can sell you chametz. I cannot demand that you pay for something or other. I cannot. Because that's a negative. I cannot do something that's not in your interest that you're obligated to do yourself. So that's another element to proxy. So following orders, I'm following orders is that I can sell you chametz. That's fine. Because it's a benefit. I cannot follow orders to hurt, to maim, or anything like that. Any more questions? Feel free to review this class, and if there are, if you have any questions, you can ask it here, or you can ask any questions anytime to rabbi@thechaycenter.com. We are, once again, we're tackling, if you have a suggestion, by the way, of a certain ethical conundrum or a fascinating discussion, I have a few more thoughts in my brain, but feel free to suggest, and we'll see if we can accommodate. So God bless. Hope all is well. Feel free to share. Please share. This is the more people that study, the better. And we're trying to get on more platforms, by the way, to share the Chai Academy. Thank you, and be well.